These engines didn't just fail, they nearly ruined the reputation of the companies that built them. So, which big names are about to get dragged through the mud? And most importantly, did your truck make the list? Number 10. Ford's Triton. These engines are infamous for all the wrong reasons. First off, they build up sludge really fast. On top of that, the exhaust manifold studs love to snap off for no clear reason. And that's just the beginning. The 5.4L Triton came in single and dual overhead cam setups, producing anything from a disappointing 195 horsepower to a wild 550 horsepower, if you add a supercharger and put it in a Ford GT. But that's not the engine we're focusing on here. Why? Because we're talking about trucks, not GTs or Mustangs. Specifically, the F-150s from 2004 to 2009. These workhorses could have been a total disaster for Ford if it weren't for brand loyalty and big fleet sales. Without that loyal following, these years might have knocked the F-150 off its top spot as America's best-selling truck. The main issue? Sludge buildup. Even if you followed Ford's own oil change recommendations, you'd think changing your oil on time would keep your engine safe, right? Nope. These engines were built with oil passages so narrow they'd clog anyway, leading to cam phasers grinding, timing chains snapping, and cams getting chewed up. And here's the worst part. Once those oil passages get blocked, there's no saving the engine. Rebuilding it won't help. You'll need a full engine replacement. And even if you get a new engine, the design flaws were never fixed, so you're just restarting the cycle. But wait, there's more. These engines also had a huge spark plug issue. The early Tritons had plugs that barely threaded into the cylinder head. What happened next? The plugs would shoot right out of the engine while driving. Ford's fix? A two-piece spark plug design. Sounds smart, until you try to remove them. They'd get stuck and break apart, leaving half of the plug trapped in the engine. Ford even made a special tool to drill them out and rethread the holes. Mobile mechanics made entire businesses out of this. Number 9. Chrysler Eco Diesel Engine. This engine's story is a wild one. When Chrysler decided to put a diesel in their smallest full-size truck, everyone thought they'd go with their usual partner, Cummins. But plot twist, they went Italian. They brought in VM Motori, an engine builder with a solid reputation going back to 1947. They've powered everything from GM and Alfa Romeo to London taxis, boats, and military vehicles. So, what went wrong? It started with a Jeep Liberty model that already had its share of quirks. But we're focusing on the legendary 3.0L V6 that came next. VM Motori was working with GM to use the engine in a European Cadillac. But when GM went bankrupt, Fiat swooped in and got the design for cheap. And they got exactly what they paid for. The second generation, co-developed with Fiat, yeah, the brand famous for being unreliable, hit Rams and Jeeps in 2014. It won awards for build quality and fuel economy, and even made it onto Ward's 10 Best Engines list. But behind the praise, it was racking up issues that would make any mechanic break down. From oil cooler and EGR, cooler failures to slipping camshaft gears, timing chain troubles, and contaminated engine blocks, this engine was stranding drivers with low mileage. Number 8. Chevrolet Atlas 5-cylinder engine. These engines had all sorts of misfire problems. And no, it's not just bad spark plugs or coils. So what's the issue? Fuel injectors constantly fail. Or worse, the valve seats wear down unexpectedly. When that happens, you'll need to replace the whole cylinder head, and that's no small job, especially on a timing chain engine. The L52 version was the worst offender, but even the updated LLR, though more powerful, still brought reports of timing chain issues, oil problems, and electrical glitches. Bottom line, experts say this engine just isn't worth the trouble. Number 7. Ford 6.0L Power Stroke Engine. This engine is just bad, plain and simple. It needed so many repairs and upgrades that calling it reliable felt like a joke. In Ford's Super Duty trucks, it might have looked tough on the outside, but under the hood it was a checklist of problems. The head gaskets blew constantly because Ford used torque-to-yield head studs that stretched and broke. The fuel injector control module, which manages the oil solenoids, was hilariously mounted on the valve cover. Electronics and heat, not a good mix. The result? No start conditions, rough idling, endless cranking, and glow plugs drawing way. Too much power and burning out. Number 6. Ford 6.4L Power Stroke Engine. This engine filled up mechanics' wallets and emptied owners' savings. It thinned out the oil so quickly that before hitting 10,000 miles, your oil looked more like chocolate milk than motor oil. Radiator leaks were constant. You'd be adding coolant more often than filling up gas. And the EGR coolers? Another total failure, leading to steam out of the tailpipe and even more costly repairs. With this engine, it wasn't a matter of if it would fail, but when and how much it would cost. Number 5. Dodge 4.7L V8. This engine ended up in everything from Jeeps to Dakotas to the Ram 1500. Dodge didn't label it terrible, but the problems said otherwise. Valve seats dropped out of the cylinder head and caused misfires. Rocker arms just fell off. Lifters were noisy, and once again, oil passages were way too tight, so missing a few oil changes meant big trouble. When they used this engine in the Ram 1500, it was painfully underpowered and had fuel economy that barely beat a lawnmower. Number 4. Chevy 5.3L V8 with active fuel management. Sounds like a smart fuel-saving feature, right? Think again. This engine burned oil like crazy. Some owners said it went through a quart every 1,000 miles. That's not normal. That's a disaster. And the lifters? They were junk. First you'd hear ticking, then clacking, and then silence. Because your engine gave up. That active fuel management system ended up doing more harm than good. People were deleting it just to keep their trucks out of the shop. Chevy eventually fixed it, but not before leaving behind a trail of frustrated drivers. Number 3. Toyota 3VZ. Before you panic, let's be clear, this engine isn't completely unreliable. But it had major issues, like blown head gaskets and burnt exhaust valves. Most of the trucks outlived their engines by a few 100,000 miles. But the biggest downside? It didn't have enough low-end torque, didn't like to rev, and just sounded bland. Plus, it was a nightmare to work on. Still, a lot of people love these engines, so if you're one of them, we respect that. Number 2. Ford 2.7L EcoBoost V6. Sounds fast and efficient, right? More like EcoBust. These engines went from boost to breakdown without warning. Some didn't even make it to 50,000 miles before needing a full replacement. Imagine buying a new truck and the engine fails before your first oil change. Ford's Built Ford Tough slogan took a serious hit here. Things got even worse for 2.7L EcoBoosts built between April 2016 and January 2017. They had a major flaw in the valve guides, letting oil sneak into the combustion chamber. That meant oil consumption went through the roof, up to a quart every 3,000 miles. And the oil pan? It was plastic, attached to an aluminum block, sealed with nothing but glue. If the adhesive failed, your oil leaked out instantly. Being direct injection engines, these had serious carbon buildup. Without port injection to clean the intake valves, deposits built up fast. Ford fixed it in the second-gen version by adding port injection, but first-gen owners were stuck with the consequences. Number 1. Nissan 5.0L V8. Cummins. Cummins has long been a top name in diesel. So when they announced a 5.0L for the 2016 Nissan Titan XD, it felt like a dream come true. But reality hit hard. The engine had endless problems, from emission system failures and turbocharger issues to major fuel system flaws. The Titan XD quickly turned into a money pit. The DEF system was especially bad. The pump was super sensitive to contamination, and when it failed, the truck went into limp mode, cutting off AC and capping your speed. And the price to fix it? The pump alone costs about $1,700 at a Nissan dealer. After labor, you're looking at over $2,000. Have you ever owned an engine that gave you more headaches than horsepower? Share your engine horror stories in the comments, and don't forget, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe to Kinetic Horsepower for more car and truck content just like this.